Chapter 16. Active and Passive Voice. Voice is that form of the verb which indicates whether the subject is the doer of the action or something is being done to it. A quick recap. The subject in a sentence is the doer of an action in many cases. Verbs in a sentence which require a direct object to complete their meanings are called transitive verbs. Now look at the picture given here and read the sentences carefully. Namita sang a song. Britney Spears sang a song. Here we can clearly see that Namita and Britney Spears are the subjects in the above sentences, and each one is the doer of the action. Verb is sang in each of the examples, whereas a song is the object in each sentence. Therefore, the verb sang is transitive. When the subject of a sentence does an action, we can say the sentence is in the active voice. A song was sung by Britney Spears. Here, a song is the subject and it is not the doer of the action. So this sentence is in passive voice. Here, the action rather than the doer is emphasized. Only sentences with transitive verbs, verbs with an object, can be changed into passive voice. Use of passive voice. The active voice is generally used while conveying an idea or thought. But sometimes the use of passive voice is required. Passive voice is used if the doer of an action is not known. For example, Mother's purse was stolen. Who stole the purse is not known. If the stress is more on action rather than the doer of the action, example, a cucumber was chopped. The chopping of the cucumber is more important than who chopped it. If the emphasis is on the thing or the person who receives the action, example, the letter was delivered. The letter is given importance. Points to remember. While changing a sentence from the active to passive voice, the following points have to be remembered. The object of the verb in the active voice becomes the subject in the passive voice. Examples: Naman kicked the ball. Active voice. The ball was kicked by Naman. Passive voice. In the above examples, Naman was the subject in sentence A, which is in active voice. He is the doer of the action. In sentence B, the ball is the subject, but it is not the doer of the action. The subject of the active voice is expressed as by plus agent in the passive voice. In the above example, Naman was the subject in active voice, but in the passive voice, he is the agent. So we write by Naman in the passive voice. The form of the verb is changed according to the tense. Verb changes into perfect tense form. Examples: Kanak writes a letter. Active voice. A letter is written by Kanak. Passive voice. Here, Kanak is the doer of the action in sentence A, and a letter is the subject in sentence B, but it is not the doer of the action. C. Mohan eats an apple. Active voice. An apple is eaten by Mohan. Passive voice. In the above examples, writes changes to is written. Eats changes to is eaten in the passive form. Similarly, a few examples of the verb write in different tense forms is given here. Active voice, write, simple present. Passive voice, is written, simple present. Active voice, am writing, present continuous. Passive voice, is being written, present continuous. Active voice, wrote, simple past. Passive voice, was written, simple past. Active voice was writing, past continuous. Passive voice was being written, past continuous. Personal pronouns. Personal pronouns also change in the passive voice. Example, I eat an apple. Active voice. An apple is eaten by me. Passive voice. I has changed to me in the given example. Read the table which shows how pronouns change from the active voice to passive voice. Active voice, I. Passive voice, me. Active voice, we. Passive voice, us. Active voice, he. Passive voice, him. Active voice, she. Passive voice, her. Active voice, they. Passive voice, them. You and it remain unchanged in the passive form. Let us discuss the changes in tenses in detail. Simple present tense. Examples, Rita writes a story. Active voice, a story is written by Rita. Passive voice, my teacher loves me. Active voice, I am loved by my teacher. Passive voice. In active voice, we write the root form of the verb also with s or es like plays, sings or mashes. In passive voice, we write is, am, are plus past particle form of the verb is written, are written. Present continuous tense. Examples, Rita is writing a story. Active voice. A story is being written by Rita. Passive voice. Sona is throwing balls in the net. Active voice. Balls are being thrown by Sona in the net. Passive voice. In active voice, we write is, are, am plus ing form of the verb is writing. In passive voice, we write is, are, am plus being plus past particle form of the verb is being written. Present perfect tense. Examples, Ravi has eaten an apple. Active voice. An apple has been eaten by Ravi. Passive voice. Children have plucked flowers. Active voice. Flowers have been plucked by children. Passive voice. In active voice, we write has, have plus past particle form of the verb has eaten. In passive voice, we write has, have plus been plus past particle form of the verb has been eaten. Past tense. Examples, Rita wrote a story. Active voice, a story was written by Rita. Passive voice, I bought a bag. Active voice, a bag was bought by me. Passive voice. In active voice, we write the past present form of the verb wrote. In passive voice, we write was, were plus past particle form of the verb was written. Past continuous. Examples, Rita was writing a story. Active voice, a story was being written by Rita. Passive voice, I was buying vegetables. Active voice, vegetables were being bought by me. Passive voice. In active voice, we write was, were plus ing form of the verb was writing. In passive voice, we write was, were plus being plus past particle form of the verb was being written. Past perfect tense. Examples, she had completed the work. Active voice, the work had been completed by her. Passive voice, they completed the project. Active voice, the project had been completed by them. Passive voice. In active voice, we write had plus past particle form of the verb had finished. In passive voice, we write had plus been plus past particle form of the verb had been finished. Simple future tense. Examples: she will buy the dress later. Active voice. The dress will be bought by her later. Passive voice. Will you guide me? Active voice. Will I be guided by you? Passive voice. In active voice, we write shall, will, plus root form of the verb will buy. In passive voice, we write shall be, will be, plus past particle form of the verb will be bought. Future continuous tense. Verbs in the future continuous tense cannot be expressed in the passive voice. Future perfect tense. Examples: Rita will have learnt the poem by evening. Active voice. The poem will have been learnt by Rita by evening. Passive voice. The teacher will have checked the identity cards by lunch break. Active voice. The identity cards will have been checked by the teacher by lunch break. Passive voice. In active voice, we write shall, will, plus have, plus past particle form of the verb will have learnt. In passive voice, we write shall, will, plus have been, plus past particle form of the verb will have been learnt. Interrogative sentences in passive voice. When we change an interrogative sentence into passive voice, we retain the interrogative form. Examples: Is he disturbing you? Active voice. Are you being disturbed by him? Passive voice. When did you bring the pet home? Active voice. When was the pet brought home by you? Passive voice.